Welcome to KIKAO, your weekly authoritative program on Africa's agriculture. My name is Joe Ageyo. This week, we focus on a subject that evokes fear in some people, but in others, opportunities. We are talking about genetically modified organisms or products better known as GMOs. Why are they so controversial in parts of Africa? And what ought the continent to do with them? We'll be hearing from our eminent panel in just a few moments, but first, here is the scene setter.
People tend to shy away from new technologies, come with lots of excuses. Today you'll hear that, oh, I'm a Puritan, okay? I'm a very religious person. I don't understand the dynamics. Where's it going to take us? People still have nightmares. Have people failed from sleeping? Don't people sleep? If you want to get rid of nightmares, don't sleep then. For how long are we going to have these sentiments without us addressing it?
Let's now get some real answers to the many questions that people ask around the continent from our eminent panel of experts. And for this, we join Dr. Canisius Kanangire, the Executive Director of AATF.
Thank you, Joe. For many years, humans have used traditional breeding methods such as selective breeding and crossbreeding to get desirable traits in plants and animals. But scientists are constantly developing new ways to create new varieties of crops and animals. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, have become a common term consumers and popular media use to describe foods that have been created through genetic engineering. The release of GM products starting in the 90s was followed by an onslaught of information from varied sources about the relative merits and demerits of the technology. Newer to the agricultural biotechnology space is gene editing, adding yet another term and even more complexity to a field already brimming with misperceptions and misinformation. As these technologies become more widespread, so too does the necessity of understanding them in detail so that decisions can be informed by truth and not manipulated by fear. So, what exactly are GMOs? How widespread are their use around the world? Are they safe? Are they needed and useful? On this episode of KIKAO series, we will seek to demystify GMOs, their regulation and application in improving agricultural productivity. I am your host, Dr. Canisius Kanangire, Executive Director of AATF, and my guests today are Dr. Roy Mugira, Acting CEO, National Biosafety Authority, Kenya, and Professor Mohamed Ishaku, Executive Director and CEO, Institute for Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, Nigeria. You are welcome, sirs.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for hosting us.
The terms, let me start with this. The term GMOs have been on every lips in Africa, elsewhere, for many years, for 2 decades almost. What is, in simple term, GMO? What does it mean? For the common citizen, what is it, GMO?
GMOs are varieties of crops and animals that have been developed by adding to them characters that are not found amongst their relatives, but are taken outside their relatives in order to improve their productivity and the services they can offer to humans.
Yeah. I could put an example which may now put into context what Prof has said. In traditional breeding that you have mentioned, you are able to move genes from one organism to another through crossing. This can only happen between the same organism, maize to maize. It became possible to move genes from unrelated. So what breeders have always done is to cross one parent with another in the hope that the offspring will carry the good character from here and the good character from here. That takes a long time because it is also dependent on chance. It became possible for scientists after DNA was sequenced to pick very specific gene and move it into the crop or plant of interest. And therefore, it became possible even to move across species so that you can pick a gene from a carrot and put it in rice, to make rice produce vitamin A, and therefore have what we have been referring to as golden rice. So this rice, therefore, that carries a gene from an unrelated relative, as Prof has put it, is what is called a GMO.
Yeah. So that is how it is produced, a GMO.
Yes.
But what is it that we, ordinary people, should know about a GMO product? For example, that you talk about golden rice.
Golden rice.
You can talk of this yellow maize or something like. What should we know about that in simple terms, we common citizens of this world?
We should know that GMOs are not any different from any improved variety or strain of animals developed, except that they have gotten an increased capacity to provide for humans services such as resistance to drought, resistance to disease, increase in the number, in the quantity of sugar produced or oil produced in the plant and so on. And that we need to know that they are not any different from that which we have been using before, except for the additional advantage that they can provide more for the farmer and also for the consumer for his own benefit.
So because the fear, let me bring what I hear from outside. It is not safe for environment. It is not safe for human consumption. Now, let me bring that question to you.
Yeah.
Is GMO product safe for the environment and safe for human consumption?
Good, thank you. To put it in a blanket, that all are safe, all are safe for the environment and health may be a bit misleading. But it is useful to pick an example and also to check on what are the measures that are taken to ensure safety. The global community, after realizing that possibility, asked the same question. Is this now safe for my health, for the health of the animals, for the environment? And therefore, the international community negotiated a protocol that would govern how do we manage this new technology. And that is the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, which is anchored under the Convention on Biological Diversity. And basically, this addresses safety, which is what you have put through. So individual state parties, countries now went and did their laws and established their institutions, like the Biosafety Authority that I had in Kenya, to ensure and assure safety. Now, let's deal with an example so that it becomes clear.
Yes.
We have just approved BT cotton in Kenya. This is cotton that is genetically modified to resist the cotton bollworm, the worm that destroys cotton.
Yes.
Now, BT, we need also to say what that one is. Probably it is coming later in our discussion, but a lot of people think it is biotech cotton. That is not the case. It is derived from a bacteria that is resident in the soil called Bacillus thuringiensis. Now, what happened, if we go even, we also have BT maize, which is coming up, which has also been commercialized elsewhere, including Nigeria. Farmers realized that their maize is getting destroyed by the stalk borer. So they would scoop some soil and put on the funnels of the maize. It helped. So then scientists asked, what is it in the soil that is bringing this? The first suspicion was that is suffocation. So the borers are being suffocated inside the funnel and therefore they die. But when they examined, they saw, no, this death is not just suffocation. There must be something. And that is when scientists now identified a bacteria in the soil, the Bacillus thuringiensis, and therefore BT. That produces a protein which is the one that is responsible for the deaths that were being observed. Now they went a step further, established this is the protein, a step further, and established the gene that makes this protein. Now they said, why don't we put this gene in maize, in cotton, in cowpea, so that the maize can make that protein itself.
Yes.
And fight and protect itself. So that is why the gene was cut from the bacteria onto the maize, onto the cotton, onto the cowpea, and therefore making them resistant to this very specific group of insects called the Lepidopteran larvae. So I'm coming to the safety. When this is being done, we check at the research stage, the proof of concept, even before it becomes possible to do this outside. We check it at the confined field trials. We check it at the performance trials outside. Then we say, this is safe. So we cannot say in a blanket statement that they are either safe or not safe. We treat it on a case-by-case basis. For the case of BT protein, for example, it has been tested to check whether it is allergenic, causing allergy, whether it is toxic to humans, to animals. It is not even toxic to other insects, the bees, and it is also not even toxic to the moth, who is the mother of the borer. That is where now science comes in, very, very specific. Within the larvae of the stem borer and also the bollworm, they are very specific receptors.
Yeah, fantastic. That is very good. I think we understand now the technology itself and the BT idea of it. I think we will take a short break, and then when we come, we say, okay, the technology is safe. It is safe for the environment. It is safe for the consumption. It is even safe for animal consumption.
Yes.
So why is it then that we are still hesitant to adopt it and protect our farmers against all those worms and other pests that are devastating the field? Welcome back to the KIKAO session. Yeah, when I was listening to Roy, I saw Professor Ishaku like burning to have some contribution on the safety of these GMOs, on environment, on human consumption, on other animals, if they are fed on BT products. Please take some time and share with us.
I suspect our viewers will want to know what is it that is used to arrive at the safety. What are those things that you will say? Ordinarily, if it is food, you think of it, whether is it a poison? Can it kill someone? Or can it cause some stomach discomfort or of any sort? And for the environment, is it that when you plant it, it is going to overcome everything else in the place and dominate everything around? Or is it going to remain forever and become like a big tree instead of a piece of maize or so?
A monster.
Those are the kinds of considerations that the safety is referring to. First of all, poisons are known They have their similarities. There are chemical compounds food scientists have known. Those that cause itching and discomfort for human beings are called allergens. Those are things that cause reactions. So before the safety dossier is developed and the conclusion is safe, it must be found to be that it doesn't have anything that is poisonous or anything that can cause stomach problem for human beings or animals. And then if it is planted, it is going to behave just like its own ordinary counterpart. And if it is used as food, it is going to test and have the same chemical composition as its own conventional food. That is the only time when it is going to be regarded as being safe.
Fantastic. I think that is indeed an answer to many questions that we have on safety. Is it a different thing? And here you need to rule all those things out. Now, when Roy was talking about GMO and how we can have those products to people, he talked about something, protocol, Cartagena protocol. It means regulations, and yeah, we are guided on how to bring GMO on the table of people in the agricultural sector. What are those regulatory frameworks that we need to have GM products available to our farmers, to our consumers, and contribute to the development of the agricultural sector, to the economic sector?
Maybe to use the analogy of the aviation industry.
Yes, please.
Initially, when the jet engine was invented, many people were unwilling to fly across the Atlantic because it is too dangerous, because it is coming for the first time. Then, similar to the Cartagena Protocol, internationally, communities of nations came together and design ways of ensuring that everybody does the same thing at the same standard, so that there will be uniform safety across the world. And that is what was borrowed in the biosafety regulatory mechanism of GMOs. That if it is going to pass from one country to another, I'm sure Roy is going to shed more light, but eventually the intention is such that all concerns that humans may have all over the world would have been answered by attaining this level of regulation and control, such that now every one of us walk into an airplane and then being flown all over the world without even thinking about it. Because the regulatory regime that was put in place to ensure our safety has even removed this concern for us. And I'm sure what Roy and his colleagues are doing are eventually going to put Kenyans into the understanding that there is no longer anything to get concerned about in GMOs.
With that regulatory framework and the process through which they reach that confirmation of the safety of the product, it gives assurance.
Yes.
And we are indeed very much assured that the national biosafety authorities do that scrutiny and come up with an evidence-based conclusion. Now, another question that we have is, does Africa has the capacity to manage GM product, to manage GM technology? Do we have that capacity? I know Professor Ishiaku is one of his lab does, but that is not something we should take as granted for the whole continent. Do we have that capacity?
Thank you. This has been a running kind of question about capacity within Africa. If I say Kenya, you can read Africa. But what we have now is a robust regulatory framework. When we negotiated the Cartagena Protocol, it was based on precautionary, you know, don't touch until we are sure. But then this has evolved over time. And we are seeing more and more African countries now adopting the technology through the rigors of the regulatory system. And we have evolved regulatory systems that are multi-agency. I could give an example of the Kenyan situation where we as the National Biosafety Authority check the safety aspects that Prof has pointed out. Then, if it is a crop, we pass it on to the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, which checks some other things and says yes. If it is an animal, we move it to Directorate of Veterinary Services, again. Then we take it to the public health, who are also sitting in our board, and again, they check aspects of food safety. Then again to the National Environment Management Authority, who take it through the environmental impact assessment, a very rigorous and public participatory kind of process. And then they tick the boxes and therefore say, so when we have made the conclusion that this is safe, the message I want picked from the Kenyan and even the Greater Africa, Nigeria is even ahead of us, having approved several other crops, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Africa has been in this longer than all of us. So in Africa, we have the capacity. And that capacity was documented by Kalisas Juma when he published his book on the freedom to innovate. That is very well documented. We have the capacity, we have the regulatory ability to do that which needs to be done. So when we are saying this is safe, farmer can grow, consumer can feed, it is indeed safe. To use the Kiswahili word, we would say hakika. Hakika means for sure that this has been checked by NEMA for environment, by KEFIS, plant matters and variety matters, public health, human health, DVS, veterinary service, animal health. So it's a package that tells the world that this can get it to your desk, I mean to your dining table, and we are certain that
that is, I think, very reassuring. Now, another thing I will derive it from what you said when you were giving the examples of some of the crops where we have GM technology applied on. You talked about maize, BT cotton, BT cowpea. Tell me, Professor, do we have other crops where GM technology has been applied in Africa and across the world?
There are several other places. For example, in soybean, soybean GM technology has been applied in soybean to make weed control easier for the farmer, and also in cassava to increase the amount of vitamin A and some essential minerals in it, and sweet potato also. Sorghum has also been enriched in terms of its nutritive potential to increase it in zinc concentration and iron and so on. There are a number of crops. Now, the underlying need for having this is informed by the intense desire to provide solution to problems in Africa. Drought, nutrition, disease, and so on and so forth. These are the things that make Africans delve into this technology. As for the capacity, there are two ways of capacity. Our regulators are very efficient. They are well knowledgeable in setting standards. They are the ones who set standards for our scientists. People like myself who work in the laboratory, they tell me how I must conduct my research. It must comply, and the compliance is to translate eventually into a very safe product that is developed. So both ways, Africa's capacity has grown in the last 10 years, more than tripled in terms of our capacity to develop biotechnology products and also manage them effectively.
I think that is again another reassuring information. First of all, because we have many crops which are now having varieties which are GM products and which add value to the productivity at the farm level, but also nutritious food. And we know that deficiencies are so many in Africa. And I think that is quite a serious thing. I know from my neighbors who are farming how much their field can be devastated by pests and these different insects. So these technologies contribute a big solution to the key challenges the farmers are having. From what you said, I will not ask you if we should be comfortable with BT maize, BT cowpea, or BT cotton, because you said we have gone through all the trials and we know it is very safe. I think that is a very good thing. Capacity is key. Now, I think what I will say is, how is it communicated to different stakeholders that from the farm where we know that there is these issues to the researchers where they will produce that solution to the biosafety authorities to say, now we are sure it is good, and then go back to the farm, now go and use it. I think that is an area where we need to work. Do you have some?
Yes, something to pick on that. You mentioned at the closure of the first session that there is that remaining question. Irrespective of these assurances, people are still jittery. People, oh, no, we can't touch that. The issue is on perception. And I want to admit, as a scientist, as an expert in this area, and even as a head of an institution in Kenya, this is an area we have not done very well. The area of communicating it, the area of making it an everyday street conversation. That has not happened. And in fact, this kind of engagement, where we can ask questions without making reference to slides and PowerPoint presentations, is a perfect way of getting these messages out there. Do we even receive feedback from our clients when they interact with this technology? That is, I think, the weakest point in our.
I think that is very important, and the question was asked deliberately, because if it is so safe, why on the other side people are still jittery when you talk of GMO?
That's right.
I think I will ask our colleagues from the media to help us break the walls of the communication and let that science, that assurance, and that seriousness go down to the consumers, go down to the farmers, go down to the decision makers, so that they know that there is no reason for fear. We have our researchers, we have our regulators who are working seriously on this area. I think when we come back, we take a break, and when we come back, we look now at the farmers' level. What is it that they are thinking about all these technologies?
Yes.
Welcome back to the KIKAO session.
Thank you.
We were talking of how GM product can address some issues, and I know there are many at the level of the farmers. And you gave a number of factors which should make us be comfortable. But the farmers now, what do they feel? What is their perception on GM product? Are they willing to plant GM seed, for example? Are they, these seeds, are they available to them so that they can be able to use them and reap and see the benefit of it? What is it at the level of the farmer?
Farmers are very clever. They are business-minded people. The new variety wants provide solution to their problem, they grab it and nobody can stop them from using it. Farmers all over the world, government might have its own regulations and so on, but if a farmer gets attracted due to the productivity and the benefits he is going to get from a new variety, whether it is GM or not GM, farmers don't care. They are looking for solutions to their problem. That lends the credence to the fact that our policymakers need to become more accountable to the need of the farmers, rather than going by some flimsy perceptions being peddled around by those people who do not even know what agriculture is in the first place. When we, if I can use the BT cowpea experience in Nigeria, during our on-farm evaluation of the variety, we had to convince many of the farmers to let go of the seed with which we evaluated together with them, because they didn't want to release the seed. We had to buy it at a higher price from them in order for us to fulfill government requirement that it was no time to allow them have them, because they have seen it with their eyes. Instead of 8-9 sprays of insecticide, with only 2 sprays, they were harvesting very huge yield from that. So this is what farmers are. And when the grains were processed for all the products that are known to be made out of cowpeas with conventional cowpeas, the taste, the look, the feel, and the attraction is no different. It is no different simply because the biochemical test also showed exactly what the farmers were testing. So both consumers and farmers are seeing it. Farmers are whom we are working for. We know if we don't have what it takes to solve their problems, they will not even look at it.
A similar experience.
Yes, please.
We took farmers to a confined field trial of cotton in some central Kenya location place, and we took them round. This is the BT cotton, this is the conventional, you can see, and we went round. They almost took the seeds by force. They said, give us this one. We have already seen, so what are you waiting for? And we're telling them, wait, hold on, we still have some stages. Then they couldn't understand why we are not giving them the seed. The other day, we met farmers from North Rift in Kenya, and we were basically telling them there is the BT technology that is coming, which will help us address the issue of the stem borer, and they challenged us. Bring to us also that which will address the fall armyworm.
Yes.
And also go and do that science. Bring to us that which will make nitrogen, you know, maize that can make
fertilizer.
Yes, for fertilizer. So that they can reduce the investments in fertilizer. So like Prof is saying, once the farmers see that this is addressing our problem, they are ready to go.
Obviously, this biotechnology is bringing solutions to the main challenges. Obviously, the farmers need it. They are willing to have the technology and use it to increase their yield. Now, why is it that it is only in a couple of countries on the continent where we have biotechnology applied? That is one thing that is not easily understandable. And what can we do to enhance the adoption and use of this technology in many countries on the continent?
This has stemmed largely from fear. What Prof explained earlier, fear of the unknown, you know, a new technology, and there is fear. There is therefore no more or less political goodwill to get these technologies into a particular jurisdiction. And therefore, it has remained out of reach for a large majority of African farmers, whereas other countries have made steps. Some countries have even revised their original laws to make them more flexible, more robust, to allow the adoption of this technology. Others have been almost, quote unquote, forced because the neighboring country has adopted the technology. Chances are that seed will cross the border. And therefore say, wait a minute, we must put our house in order as this technology is coming in. So it is fear of the unknown and therefore reluctance to embrace this technology within certain jurisdictions.
Yeah, what can we do to enhance the adoption?
We need to put more effort in exhibiting the technology practically,
yes,
in both on the farm and also on the table for people to see. If any Kenyans or Nigerians or any African for that matter had traveled to places like Brazil, Argentina, United States of America, China, and so on, if they had eaten sweet corn, for example, sweet melon, and so on and so forth, they would have eaten GM varieties of these ones. They would have been thanking their tongue for tasting that because they are so tasty, sweet, and so on. So without knowing it, in those countries, they have gone beyond that level of doubts and rumor peddling about this technology. It has become part of their diet. So here, we need to invest more in creating awareness, in disabusing the minds of the public, most especially by those people who present themselves as experts in this area while they are novices. A professor can be a professor in a particular area, but he might not know exactly the subject matter under discussion. Yes. And if he or she opens her mouth to the public and then musters the reaction of members of the public, our policymakers shake without taking any change. But I'm sure if we engage the media, interpersonal exchange of ideas, explanation, I tell people that as a scientist, I have no worry about people expressing concern about GMO. It's because they don't know.
They don't know.
If by the time I explain and I show them what it is, many of them, their minds get disabused against it, and then their attitude changes towards it. And I think that is what we need to do. We need to show the technology. We need to show evidence practically to those places. And before you know it, the policymakers themselves will have their own orientation changed by the public.
That is very good. I think it is very clear. And there is an initiative which has been initiated by the Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnology and the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, etc., which says seeing is believing. And people go and see on-farm trials, and they can see the difference between the two. They can see the difference in the yield and the product, how similar they are. Actually, a GM product is not something different from the original product, and that is seen. When you have seen, you believe. And now there is another initiative which comes to complement that one, is eating is believing. So people go and eat cowpea or made different ways, and they are still alive. They are okay, and they have tested it. The way in America you can test all those products. I think all those are efforts that we need to do more on different countries when it is possible to bring those products there, and have the information passed in a simple way, like seeing is believing. In a simple way, like eating is believing. And then hopefully we will change quickly the perception and create more confidence in this product, and come up with policies and regulations which will enable countries to adopt and use the technologies. As we said here, farmers are willing to adopt them. Actually, they want them today.
Yes.
Give us the seed and we produce better. And we consumers, we need that because we don't want to see people starving because there is no food produced from our farming because of different pests and challenges, climate change coming in, etc. So there is an effort that is needed from us, but we cannot do it alone as scientists, as regulators. Policymakers, decision makers have a role to play. Scientists have to continue to give it a face, an African face, because I will believe it if I see my brother here presenting it. I will say, oh, he knows it, and I trust him. But also, I think we need to create that bridge between the farmer, the scientist, the policymaker, and then create more awareness. I want to conclude by asking our colleagues in the media again to help us breaking the barriers of communication so that this can be put in a simple way to the common, the ordinary person that is in agriculture, a consumer, at any level of the value chain, because we need to understand it so that we demystify GMO. It is not harmful. It is something which is which undergoes a lot of trials, and safety is assured. That is why we can advise that we put it on the market. So media, we have an area of collaboration which needs to be continued. Colleagues, Professor Ishiaku, Dr. Roy Mugira, yes. I want to thank you very much, and I want to take this opportunity to also thank our viewers for their attention. I invite you to the next KIKAO session. Goodbye for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And now to our science terminology of the week on Science Speak. And this week, the word is biological control. This is a method of controlling pests and diseases using other organisms. For example, the introduction of a particular species of birds into an area to control locusts. All right, what a revealing conversation that was, separating fact from fiction. So yes, GMOs may not be the silver bullet, or at least not the only one on the African continent, but they're definitely part of the toolkit needed to tackle the question of food security on the continent and other applications. My name is Joe Agayo. This conversation can only go on. Thank you for watching KIKAO.